That's why I say we must be like children or like the animals, but bringing with us our experiences. That's why it's important to learn from our experiences that other experiences are also valid, and that no matter how wise we think we are, we become very stupid when we start judging other people, when we start anticipating what other people are or why they do what they do, because that is something we, as someone who exists outside of them, can never know. It is always important to remember that, again, it is all about you. You have the world of causes, and that world is inside of you. And you have the world of effects. That world is outside of you. What you see is a result of what is in you. If you see bad things, that is because you have judged the world as good and bad. And quite often when we have done that, we lose the advantage of being able to grow and learn from the things that have happened to us. If things are just what they are situations and things happen. That's just what it is. You know, if you sidestep getting hit by a car, it's not good or bad. You just sidestep getting hit by a car. If you want to judge it as good or bad, then that's the kind of thing that you're going to project. You see, people are, as far as I'm concerned, they're just what they are. That is, people are just like me, in a way. Okay? And the way I know that is because the things that they do, I have done. I just don't do them anymore. All right? So I understand who they are. I understand by watching them, listening to them. I understand how they got to be that way, because I understand how I got to be that way. We are what we are by reason of the same process. We learned things. No human being is bad. No human being is good. We're just people. And when we deal with it that way, even when people do horrific things, the thing may be horrific, but they're just people. They were talking about capital punishment on television one day, and they had this one guy they said was just evil. Well, this man was not evil. This man had been abused. So you can't have a person who is evil and abused. Those of us who have been abused in our lives realize how you react to being abused. And there are degrees of ways in which you react. I see the same kind of person in me because of the way I was treated as a young black male in this country. The abuse that I received made me very angry and made me very prone to doing things to people who were white. Because, and to them en masse, because of the way en masse they had done to me. So I understand abuse. I understand turning around that anger and that hostility and abusing people. I didn't say it was good or bad, right or wrong. I didn't say that. Because as long as we live in that world, we have people who are judgmental. And when we start being judgmental, we start wanting to have death penalties. And that makes us the same as a state or as a group. It just makes us an anonymous murderer. But murder is murder is murder is murder. If you don't do it in the heat of passion or in the heat of battle, it's murder. It's as simple as that. Okay? So we become those kinds of people, which is the same as the people we want executed. So it is a matter then of a choice as to the kind of person that I choose to be. What does my heart, what does the depth of my being say that I am? And when we get to the depth of that being, it says that I am not that. Okay, so I don't have to do that. I don't have to get involved in that. But when we become high and mighty and able to judge other people, it makes us ill. It makes us ill. So the thing we have to get rid of in ourselves is that same thing. If we are to come clean with ourselves about, if we are to find out who we really are at our basic nature, because the revenge factor, those kinds of things come out of the mind. The mind reasons these kinds of things out by the kinds of experiences that you've had. Therefore, someone who has not walked in my shoes has no right to judge me. If you have not been where I've been, you have no right to judge me, good or bad. Unless you have killed, then you have no right. I used to feel after Vietnam, and I would hear these right-wing Americans who had never been any place jumping up saying who was American and who was not. Did I serve? Yes. Did I believe in the war? No, I did not. Was the war wrong? Yes. But I paid the price. I have the right to say that. That was the way I felt. You have not been there, so you don't have the right. You don't have the right to say one word about who is American and who isn't. That was my feeling. That was the point of contention for me, and a point of anger, and therefore a point of disturbance to my peace. You see what I'm saying about judgment? Even though I had been there and felt I had the right to judge, just as they felt they had the right to judge. The problem was my own hurt and my own hostility and anger that I created within myself by judging. It got to the point I wanted to kill them. You see, all from a matter of this kind of moralistic judgment. Okay, let me say this to you. It is not what you do or not do. That is never the issue in terms of your peace and who you are. It is how or why you do what you do. You see, you can do most anything. If you're at peace, and you're at peace with the comeback, no problem. We have a tendency to want to judge our actions. See, that's the point of it. That's not the issue. The issue is, are you exercising your freedom of choice? That's the issue. In terms of your spiritual search. Do you choose this? You may choose anything you so desire, as long as you choose it. See? Let me see if I can illustrate method and reason for a method. You see this? We call it a scar. What it is a body memory gestalt. That means the body remembers what happened. There is a kind of emotional energy in this. There's a physical energy in this. If I were not who I am, all that would be tied up into one spot. Okay? Maybe every time I saw a knife, or maybe every time I saw a hospital, or maybe every time I saw a doctor, I would go, yeah. This is a memory gestalt. When you were young and developing your personality, through large doses of energy, whether that energy be from a physical trauma, an emotional trauma, a physical or emotional joy, it's captured by the body. We will continue to respond to that over and over and over again until we release the energy that is trapped in that gestalt. Okay? Now, energy that moves feels good. Energy that doesn't move feels unpleasant. The trick then is, if you are to be free of the behavior, then is to learn to release that energy. And you will know when that energy is released because it's like a weight being lifted off of you. You'll feel different. You'll feel light. You'll feel like you had the greatest bowel movement in the world, ever in history. I'm serious. Yeah, I'm giving you something you can feel now. I'm giving you a physical thing that you can really relate to that goes, oh man, wow. Oh boy. That kind of release. That is why the stop technique, looking directly at what is happening, relaxing, and letting the energy move is absolutely important because it breaks that pattern. And you just have to keep doing it until it breaks the pattern. Now, the way that it breaks is because you, the individual, recognizes what has happened, what is happening, and then you're free. But the key is you must recognize what is right before you in order to be free. The stop technique merely positions you to recognize. So what you have to do is you have to keep doing the technique. If you just do the technique, kind of looking out into space, you don't get it. But you have to pay very close attention to what's happening in that body. You relax, bam. Something happens, the energy moves. Okay. It is your recognition that frees you. So the technique positions you to recognize what is happening. That is liberating. You understand? Okay. It is a formula for great possibility. Okay, a formula for great possibility. I didn't say it's a formula that will make X happen. It's not quite like a chemical formula, because you can put the chemicals together, add your spark, and you will consistently get the same thing over and over again. So it's not quite like that. It is if you do it exactly right every time. You see, but if you don't do it exactly right, it won't happen. Okay? So it is important to learn that this whole thing is a recognition. The God self is nothing more than a recognition that self recognizes God within self, that God recognizes God. It sounds strange, but that's the reality of it. God recognizes God. We are and it is the self that is focused on the knots. You can do it a whole different way. You can leave the knots tied and just move back far enough so that you can see them all. You don't care anyway. Because in that you recognize or you recognize who you are. And that's important. That is what is important. Man is on this earth to learn and to act as a doorway for other man to come upon the earth. Because of the way we have been taught about relationships, because we have not been taught to face and deal with our insecurities, doubts, and fears, that relationship has become something other than it should be. That is male-female relationships, or even male-male, female-female. And we can talk friendships. Because friendships can be as poisonous. Just plain old friendships can be as poisonous as other kinds of relationships. Because people get into them not because they like you, but because of something they see in you that they can take advantage of for themselves. And I suppose that that's all right. It's just not real, true friendship, and it will show itself. What we need do is come to that point inside of ourselves where we are real honest, and then we can have real honest relationships. You know, if we are not together because, as Rocky said in the movie about Adrian, he said, yo, you know, we got gaps. She fills my gaps, I fill her gaps, you know. No. She got to fill her own gaps, I got to fill my gaps, you know. Bada bing, bada boom. We can't come together to fill each other's gaps. Because you don't know what mine are, and I don't know what yours are. And yours get on my nerve anyway. I don't want to hear it. Just as mine must get on your nerve. You see, so we're then in the relationships in an incorrect manner. If we spend the time to come to the absolute truth about these things, the relationship then becomes very, very loving. It becomes what love is. We don't want to accept the reality of our being, that we can be holy, that we can be wholly, complete. That's what holy means, complete within ourselves. When we can be that way within ourselves, then we can be with other people and get along with them just fine. If they do stupid stuff, we just look at them and go, yeah, okay. As my grandmother once said, you can come in, but that noise has got to stay outside. Okay? You're all right, but that's got to go. You can't bring that over here. But that comes about through recognizing our memory gestalt, untying the knot, letting them go away, or moving back far enough so that we see them in relationship to the other thing that we are. We will see them like stars in the sky. You will be the sky. That's okay too. No, that is not going to solve it. You don't have to go back to it. What you have to do is untie the energy knot. You don't have to remember it because you got plenty of things in there that happened so long ago. Shit. You know, you are personality-wise what you are by the time you're 2 years old. What are you going to remember? You know, you just got that attitude. It's like I was a very shy child. I got embarrassed very, very easy and withdrew inside very easily. All right? It took me a long time to get out of that. Obviously, something happened at some point in time that I took in such a way that made me very shy. Made me not want to be wrong, which meant when I was wrong, I was totally embarrassed. But no one knew that when I was young. All right? So no one could help me correct it. No one could help me stand and face what I did and see nothing. I wasn't going to die because I made a mistake. You see. So no one helped me untie that knot, but when this day came, I didn't remember what, but all these knots came untied. All this energy just started running, and I was free. It's not the thing itself. It is the way it is tied in the knot in the body-mind, or mind-body, whichever you prefer. The issue is real simple. Stop technique gives you a moment. Recognize, relax. Recognize what you see as you allow the energy to just flow. Let go. Let the happening happen. We keep things from coming up because, again, we are judgmental idiots. It's what we are. Oh, I don't want to feel that. Well, you must feel that. You must let that pass. Because otherwise, it keeps trying to come up emotionally or feeling-wise, and it keeps making you feel not so good. Okay? There's only one way. You got to take the medicine. And the medicine is just letting it flow. If it brings tears, it brings tears. If it brings laughter, it brings laughter. If it brings, I don't know, shivering and boogers and slobber and snot, well, then that's okay. You can't be embarrassed by that. You just, because what you are doing is on the path to freedom. You're on the path to health. You're on the path to never letting something like this happen to you ever again in your whole entire life. So, I too had this sense of abandonment. But then I realized that's just fear of being left alone. And alone you are anyway.